Stock that's going up today is Tesla. The shares are in focus as CEO Elon Musk is on hand in Shanghai as the company delivered its first China-built cars to customers. A half dozen buyers drove away with new Model 3 sedans. Musk also signaled that Tesla plans to set up a design center in China, but he didn't give any details on that. There he was at the unveiling event as they started to sell the cars. It looks like there's some optimism around it with the shares up. Rick, what's your take on this situation?
Well, Tesla's been getting things right lately. They're operating sort of like a normal automaker without so many problems, and the CEO has not been tweeting controversial things lately. What I think is going on in Iran makes perfect sense. Excuse me, China. Sorry about that. It obviously makes sense for Tesla to be in China because it is the world's biggest market for electric vehicles. There are a lot of subsidies by the government there. But, push this down the road a little bit, and as Tesla wants to sell cars around the world, it makes a lot more sense to manufacture them in China and export them from China to other parts of the world than it does to do it from the United States, just because it's cheaper.
But it still takes
much cheaper to build stuff there.
Okay, but what's the ramp up? Was it about 5 years? And when he talks about design center, don't the Japanese automakers, their design centers are actually, although headquarters perhaps in Japan, are out in California, but we're no longer, everything being designed for the U.S. market then goes.
There are two things going on. You want to design vehicles for the local or the regional market, but automakers are all global at this point, and so those vehicles have to be globalized. So you can do things like have a single chassis that you can put a bunch of different models on. They all do it now, so I don't know if that means Tesla will be designing vehicles that will be sold only in China. I kind of doubt it.
He said for worldwide.
He said they're eventually going to ship them.
Right, but a design center in China could mean designing vehicles for the Chinese market, but it could also mean just using Chinese designers who get paid less, who earn less and cost less than Americans.
Interesting. All right.
The real thing would come if they actually started importing vehicles from China back to the United States, which incidentally General Motors has done with an SUV called the Buick Endeavor. That is a little bit controversial, and I think we're not going to see that in large scale for some time, but it could happen.
Well, speaking of General Motors, they also released some numbers for China and said they had a big drop last year, or I should say in 2019, 15% drop. That's the biggest drop ever after a 10% drop in 2018. So that shows that, being in China is not an automatic win, right, when you look at GM sales there?
Well, they're still selling 3 million cars a year in China. That's a lot of cars, and that has been a big profit center for General Motors for some time. They've been in China for a long time, so they're one of the automakers that got in early, and they generally got it right. It seems like what's happening, that drawdown in sales for GM, just reflects what's going on in the Chinese market. The government there is withdrawing some subsidies. The economy has been slowing. It is hurt somewhat by the trade dispute with the United States, and they just have kind of a slowing car market there. We'll see if GM gets back on track in China, but I think they will.
Well, we see ups and downs in any market, but regarding China, the headline was always grow, 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 grow. Seeing this kind of number for GM, is it time to reconsider that maybe it won't always be grow, 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 and perhaps it might be plateau?
Absolutely. The Chinese growth numbers, first of all, a lot of the market takes them with a grain of salt. And so they've always had rosy numbers, but the growth numbers are less rosy than they'd been. There is potentially a huge indebtedness problem in China, and most cars are purchased, with some sort of financing. So it doesn't surprise me that maybe this China engine of growth story is sputtering a bit. And certainly big ticket items like cars would be one of the places you'd expect to see that. Tesla's got hype. I've said for years that Tesla is one of the ultimate faith-based stocks because it moves based more or less upon its faith in Elon Musk. And to be fair, this year the faith has been rewarded somewhat because, as Rick mentioned, it's acting. They've done all the things that a real company would do, as well as all the stuff that Tesla would do. But as for an engine of growth for the idea of just showing up in China and expecting stuff to sell, I don't know if that narrative holds anymore.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.